Hey, welcome to the 436th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patron More. I'm Matt Enlow.
And I'm Oren Kaplan, and today we are catching up, talking about actors, about casting actors, about working on some scenes with actors, about interviewing actors, and I think that's it. Maybe we can catch up on some other stuff too.
Oren just wrapped a job yesterday.
Yeah, last night.
I realized, I actually have a lot to say about this job. It's kind of a unique sort of build, so we'll dig into everything about it and use it as a little bit of a case study.
Yeah.
But before we do that, Oren, I'm dying to know a little bit more about what you've been working on lately.
Well, I just did a pitch for a very popular, maybe not that popular, I don't know, semi-popular, for a fast food restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And I pitched against two other directors, and I worked hard on this pitch, as I usually do. Try to do something that hopefully the other directors will not do. For this one specifically, I actually used Procreate on my iPad. I drew the storyboards. It was there's two 15-second spots, but one of them I didn't board. But the other one I drew, 8 storyboards. With my very ugly drawing, and then I did the voices and I edited them into a 15 because it was a lot to fit into a 15-second spot, and I just wanted to show my strategy of how to get there and how to maybe tweak the dialogue a tiny bit to get there. And lo and behold, I won the job, which is very cool. But then lo and behold more, whatever comes after lo and behold. This company tested the product, the food item that this entire campaign is for. And they realized that...
it's gross.
No, it's not gross, but that people did not seem very excited about the potential of purchasing this product.
Yeah.
And then they're like, why would we advertise this? And they killed the entire campaign. So...
did you get a kill fee?
No, nothing. I mean, we didn't even ever get officially awarded. They just told us hey, we met all the directors. You guys are our pick, and we're working out on the budget. Our budget we were definitely the most expensive, and we were trying to be cheaper. But we have a certain level, a certain DP, a certain location, a certain art crew, and number.
You got some standards, is what you're saying, Oren. Yeah.
When they come to you because they it's like people will always do this, they'll be like, ooh, we love your work that you spent $1 million on. Here's $50,000. Do that same work for us. And you're like, well, that is different. Or, and that sometimes happens. But the thing that happens probably way more often, and I'm sure it's happened to you a bazillion times, is they'll send you a reference. They're like, we love this progressive commercial. It's just 2 actors in a house. We don't have a lot of money, but a house isn't expensive. 2 actors isn't expensive. Go do this thing. Non-union actors in a weird city with no money for lighting. And they want it to be the same as the funniest actors in the entire universe in this progressive commercial where they have 14, 18Ks, lighting this whole beautiful house that's been completely art directed. So every plant is in the correct position. So, I try to, I'm trying to not... the art class who I work with, famously gives people good deals, and trying to give people good deals while still being very realistic and saying if you want this to be at this level that we've been discussing, you need a light.
Yeah. We're on the same page. We want the same things. I want to make sure that we can deliver, because it's always a hard conversation when you get down the line and you realize the budget isn't really there for what we need to make this happen at the level that we're hoping for. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, bud. I hear you.
I think as a director, though, one of your jobs is, and it's a really hard job. This is why I think directing is hard. Really, the directing part is pretty easy. It's the convincing people to let you direct. That's the hardest part of this job. And you need to somehow tell the people that are deciding how much money is going to be spent, how freaking awesome this thing can be, how excited you are about it, how every problem that's come up you have this incredible solution for, but also that it's worth actually spending more money on than they had originally thought. you know, and sometimes you're not talking to the people that are making the money decisions. So you have to convince the people you're talking to.
You have to arm those people with the ammunition.
Yes.
Yeah.
As we've said on this podcast before, you got to pitch the pitch.
Yep. Well, good luck, man. You know, it's funny. I feel like you made me think of the other direction as well, of like, I think as we progress and as, you know, things get bigger and better, so do all of our main collaborators. You know, like if you're staying faithful to a crew, or you're finding new crew members that are kind of like working in that new budget range, and then something smaller comes up that you do want to do or is within scope, but those collaborators are too expensive or have different expectations, then all of a sudden you have to figure out like, oh, how do I pull this off again? You know, like, it's one thing for a director to be like, okay, I'm going to take the leap on this. You and I were just talking about a job where, you know, it's a little underfunded.
Budget challenged. Yeah.
Yeah.
The phrase of the day.
Yeah. Budget challenged. And like, that's okay. Sure. Do I think I can pull it off? Yeah, I think so. But I was like, who do I call to pull this off with me?
Mm-hmm.
Who are the people? Who's my production designer? Who's my DP? You know, those sorts of people, because like I was saying, a lot of the people that are my go-tos have sort of risen with me. So even though I'm deciding to slum it every once in a while for the love of the game, sometimes they're down and sometimes they're like, no, I like having the tools that I need and have become accustomed to, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the question is, you know, if you hire these people all the time, then maybe they'll do you a favor. But if you like,
sure,
don't hire them all the time, then yeah, you either have to beg them to do something for cheap, or you have to hire like the cheaper person that might be cheaper for a reason.
Yeah.
Or you have to promise them that you'll hire them again.
It's not me thinking about whether or not I'm not asking them to lower their rate, because like for the most part, I'm quite loyal. And so, you know, I've proven over the last decade that I do call them all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's a challenge when it's like, oh, well, it's been a minute since I've worked in town. Weirdly, I'm on a streak now where there's a lot of stuff in town, which is incredible. Like, I feel like, anyway, awesome. But it's less that, it's more just like, do they have the crew? Are their crew rates going to be the same? Is the size crew going to be the same? All of those resources, that's where the sacrifices are for them. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so, that's the bigger question mark that for me, rather than like, oh, it's a lower rate for a handful of days.
Yeah.
You know, that's their own personal decision. But like, if your crew's half as big as you're used to, that's a totally different question.
It's funny. This shoot I just had yesterday that we'll talk about. My DP, you know, I think he was getting a pretty good rate. He had a big crew. He had most of the lights that he wanted, except there was this thing where it was like, budget wise, it'll save us a ton of money if we go with tungsten lighting instead of LED lighting, which is so funny in 2025 or whatever year it is, 2024.
And that's happened a bunch of times. I feel like I've heard that more lately.
Happened in a row, because the stages that they charge you, you know, if renting a 5K tungsten light from Wood and Nickel or wherever the cheapest place you can rent that from. Anyway, like, you know, let's say it costs like $100 to rent at like kind of your regular rental place. Like they'll charge you like $350, you know, at the stage. And if it's like a sky panel and it costs like $200 to rent, they'll charge you $650, you know, like it's just like such an upcharge. And so you can save, like, it's annoying because the stage is paying for the power, you know, like, like you're paying them one price for all the electricity. So they're trying to play the numbers like in a movie theater style of like, hey, this small popcorn is $4 and the large popcorn is $4.50. They're trying to, I think, kind of game you and like challenge you, like, oh, you're going to have to use these old tungsten lights. And I think that it's backfiring a lot.
A lot of producers are like, oh, it's fine.
They're like, okay, yeah, we'll use this 10K instead of this 1K, you know? Now we'll have 50,000 watts of lights lighting our actor instead of, you know, 4,000.
Did it get hot?
it gets hot, but yeah, we're going to pump your air conditioning that you're paying for even harder. So it's like,
sure.
and now all the lights we didn't rent are just sitting there, on the stage. We just can't use them. So anyhow, sorry, I got distracted from so the DP had a good rate, good crew, fine gear.
Mm-hmm.
But the shoot was kind of like 2 cameras facing a white cyc and
boring. Yeah.
From a DP point of view. So sometimes I'm like, I feel like I have to apologize at the end. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. I know nothing happened.
Sure. So I just shot the last thing I shot was a white cyc as well with a celebrity.
But it wasn't for 20 hours straight.
It wasn't for 20 hours straight. That's true. And the thing, you and I both have shot a lot of white cyc in the past. But the thing that was really great about this one is that it was celebrity talent. We had them for an hour, maybe 2. And so, but we still had the stage and the crew for the whole day, a full day like normal. So we rolled up at a leisurely, 10 a.m., 9 a.m., something, like a totally sane call time. And then we lit for hours, for hours and hours. With there was so much bounce. It was just like you were walking into a white cove. You were walking into a white orb. You know what I mean? And it looked great and it was really fun. But did you have the time to light it that luxuriously, or was it just, just kind of like, all right, well, let's get this up and get it going?
Yeah.
This is a premium job, so I'm sure it looked great, but there is a difference between leisurely lighting and something where you do have to keep it moving.
Well, it was a 2-day shoot, originally a 1-day shoot, turned into a 2-day shoot.
Mm-hmm.
First half of day 1 was a pre-light. So 6:30.
Does your rate double then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
hell yeah.
My rate did not double. It went, my day rate went down by 25%, but I got 2 days instead of 1 day. But there was always a pre-light. So I would have kind of worked 2 days regardless. Mm-hmm. But now because I shot on day 1, now I got paid as a shoot.
Well, but you could step away to pitch on something, or pre-light's not actively directing.
I did pitch on one thing on my pre-light day.
yeah, there you go.
Or no, I did a briefing call, but during the pre-light, so the first half of the day was pre-light, but it was grueling. I guess we can just kind of get into it.
We'll get into it in just a moment after we talk about Patreon. Patreon.com/justshootitpod is the place where you can throw us a couple bucks.
Yeah, patreon.com/justshootitpod. Join our Patreon. Hey, if you're listening to this and you are someone that's like, oh, you have a podcast, Oren? Just Shoot It Pod? And now you're like, wow, this is actually really helpful. I listened to your Scott Feinstein episode and I hired him, and now I just made so much more money.
Thousands of dollars thanks to you.
Yeah, then don't you think you owe it to us to just give us $5 a month?
A little bit of something.
Chill, dude. Anyhow, patreon.com/justshootitpod. Cool if you check it out. You don't have to. I don't need your favors. We don't need your favors. We're successful directors making tons of money. But yeah, go to our Patreon because the podcast is 100% funded by the Patreon. Okay, so this job is a job where I have some actors, SAG job, one celebrity, and a bunch of non-celebrities. And it's a SAG job, and so because of that, there are not a lot of SAG jobs in LA for non-celebrities. We needed to cast 15 people. And so we got 700 submissions. And the casting...
And also 700 submissions is so many people, but when it's SAG, you're also oh, there's so many really good actors. Yeah. Sometimes who you recognize. When you, the classification of celebrity that you're describing is oh, this person's been a household name for decades, right? It's totally reasonable that every single person at a party you meet knows who this person is.
There's almost no way that you haven't seen at least one thing that he's been in, if not hundreds of things. Well, not 100, dozens.
But dozens and dozens, yeah. But did you, in that batch of 700 other actors, did you recognize people? Were there character actors? Were there people like kind of, I take it back. I know, because we talked about it. There was a guy who you cast, and actually who I follow on TikTok.
Yeah, there was some, I mean, well, first of all, a little actor named Chris C. Weatherup auditioned.
Christine Weatherup.
Oh, different
Professionally.
actor.
Yeah,
Christine Weatherup auditioned that we both know. Cara Louise, we both know, auditioned. A bunch of actors I knew actually auditioned. But yeah, we cast this one guy that has been in almost every Christopher Guest movie. And I did not realize it till after we cast him.
Oh, wait, who?
He's like a character actor. His name is Stephen M. Porter. He was also on like 24 episodes of Heart of Dixie. And, we were trying to find people that looked like non-actors, that looked like real people. And he was one of them.
Yeah, I do know his face.
It was like, I didn't know. He was just so freaking funny in the audition.
So good. Yeah.
I had no clue that he was like a Christopher Guest guy.
Yeah. So the reason I bring that up is not just to name drop how great all of these people are, but like, I think, just to level set for people, when you say celebrity versus non-celebrity, there's still people with serious notoriety.
Every single one of them has been on a TV show that you've heard of. Or in a commercial you've seen. But and when I say over 700 submissions, I don't mean like people were like, hey, I would like to audition, and then we narrow it down from there. I mean 700 people 700 auditioned, put themselves on tape and sent them in. The casting director, this is like so not interesting, but I was alone with my 2 children on a vacation trip because my wife was filming a show. So last minute, so I was by myself, 9-hour drive, 3-year-old and 8-year-old. And then when I got to my destination, basically like at 10 p.m., not at 10, I got there at 6:30 p.m. By the time I got to look at my emails and put the kids to sleep and everything was like close to 10 p.m., I get the auditions, 322. And I immediately call Mary Ruth, my casting director. I was like, what the F? 322 auditions. It's literally, and they're not short auditions. It's not like, hey, thank you. It's not one line auditions. It's like kind of interviews, and it's personal. It's about,
I know because my wife auditioned. Yeah. Their stories are 2 or 3 minutes. In the briefing call, it was 3-minute stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 16 hours worth of auditions I got. And because I'm married to an actor, and I'm curious if you're the same way, I have a feeling I'm worse about this.
I know. No. Oh, really? Interesting. Let's see.
I watch every single, not from beginning to end.
When you say worse, you mean you're more thorough than I am.
I feel bad. I know how much effort it takes to put yourself on tape and send it in, and you do 7 takes and you choose the best one. You do that. I will watch every single audition that's sent to me. I will watch for at least the first 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Like I don't just go like this face, and watch the auditions. So
yeah.
And so 16 hours worth of auditions, and then the catch
you are more thorough than I am. However, if I can tell immediately, like, oh, you're just the wrong look, and I know this for some reason that's breaking news, then I will probably skip past it.
Yeah, I'm worse. I'm like, you're the wrong look, but maybe there's something interesting about using the wrong look. But I sometimes do the opposite where I'm like, oh yes, the first 10 seconds, there is something I love about you, put you in the callback pile. Unfortunately for this one, we only had time to do callbacks for like 35 people. Actually, I mean, Chrissy was on my callback. Like I had this giant callback list, and I worked with everyone, the agency and everyone. We got it down to like 100. Then we got it down to 89. Chrissy was part of the 89. We got it down to, basically we only had like 6 hours to do the callbacks. Anyhow, the catch of me getting these 322 auditions at 10 p.m. is I needed to have my selects by 10:30 a.m. the next morning. And so
literally impossible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There weren't enough hours to watch all the auditions, but I also needed to sleep and then like get my kids up and, do all the things. We're sleeping in a new place. Anyhow, it was, I was like so stressed out. And I wanted in my whole pitch. And the reason I got this job, because I found out who I pitched against, also a really good director. And the reason they picked me, I found out, is because of how in depth I went into the casting. Like I literally called 2 different casting directors, Mary Ruth, my kind of comedy casting director, and Lauren Kaler, my unscripted casting director. Did I already tell the story?
No, no. I mean, to me, but
okay.
No.
My unscripted casting director. And I asked them, what would be the casting breakdown that you would put out for this job? How would you find real people that are good at talking about the thing we need them to talk about? And they both gave me their strategies and everything. And I put those into my treatment. I had the casting notice in my treatment, you know, I had like, and the stuff I didn't have time to put in my treatment. I told them when I pitched back, I was like, my friend casts like all these reality shows with real people. And this is how she finds, you know, certain people. So I think I did talk about it in an unpaid endorsement about like how to find real people.
Oh, maybe you did actually.
But, anyhow, so the problem is sometimes, you know, as directors, and I'm sure you've done this too, we sell ourselves on like, oh, I am good at something. This is
how we're going to do it.
I'm good at animatics. Sure. I'm good at casting. I'm good with actors. I'm good at locations. I'm good at...
I don't mean to brag, but it's a little bit of a superpower. It's something that sets me apart.
Yeah.
Let me get into it.
And then you get the job and they're like, hey, you told us you were really good at animatics. Why are you not making animatics? You're like, oh, sorry, I have no time to do this thing I promised you I would do. Anyhow, so casting was really important. It was really stressful. And as a director, basically we had scripts, but then we also wanted people to put their own spin on them and kind of, it was about fandom of something. And we just wanted them to talk about how they're fans of that thing. And so I had to I'd also pitched myself as like a talker. I'm like, I one time sat on a 5-hour flight and talked to the guy about his job the entire time. And he was a roofer. You know, like I can talk to a 3-year-old for 45 minutes without breaking a sweat. So I told him I'm such a good talker. And then I had to talk for 6 hours straight in these callbacks. And then I had to talk for like 20 hours, you know, with one night in between for the interviews.
Oh, here we are on a podcast.
But I did do one really, really cool thing that I will tell you about when we get there. But I want you to talk because you brought this subject up.
I did bring it up. So the reason I brought it up is because listeners know, thanks to the podcast, actually, that I teach commercial acting at the Lee Strasberg Institute. Shout out. It's been super fun. And coincidentally, I was running a scene, an interview technique nearly identical to this, very, very similar. And the reason that I do it in my class is because oftentimes actors, especially in a conservatory environment like Lee Strasberg, you know, they're playing the leads. They're playing really great roles in all of their other classes, right? Like it's always, when you're doing a workshop, you're not going to be, you know, reservation holder number 3, right? But in reality, most of the things that they're going to be auditioning for early in their careers are going to be those people, right? And so in a commercial environment, oftentimes, if your character just does a bite and like, or just notices something crazy happening, or has a single line that's like, whoa, okay, it's hard to just bring someone in to say, whoa, okay, 3 times, right? And so sometimes, as an audition technique, you'll ask them to tell you a story about why they love a cheeseburger, if it's a cheeseburger commercial or something like that. And so the exercise is there to kind of see how quick they are on their feet, how engaged they are, how thoroughly they understand the subject matter. But most importantly, you need to see them fill up with energy and excitement and joy and enthusiasm about the product you're trying to sell. And that's literally what the assignment is in your case, basically.
Yeah. And there was a real stress from the agency that they wanted it to feel real and authentic and not like actors are saying lines, not like a rehearsed monologue, but like, you know, I like this thing because of this and it makes me feel like this. And that's like what it means to me in my life. Like a real honest, like docu-style interview. But because we had the celebrity that was a SAG celebrity, it made everyone else in this thing have to be SAG as well. So we're like, well, if we're going to get these really good actors, they should be able to act authentically and also say the name of the product and the lines we need them to say. But also, honestly, we ended up casting like almost all comedy people. They also need to kind of like improvise, but like react to me. And sometimes like they're a fan of something similar to what we need them to be, but not really. And I would just be like, well, substitute the thing you really do care about for the thing that I'm asking you to care about and just talk
in
about
class, actually, if I have time, I will run them through and I'll be like, okay, great. Tell me about your favorite slice of pizza, the best piece of pizza you ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, I'll be like, hey guys, after everyone's already auditioned, so sorry, client just called. It's not pizza, it's a burger now.
Mm-hmm.
But we loved what you said. So give me the same story, but substitute a burger every single time.
Cool. Does it work? Are some people better than others at it?
Of course, some people are better than others. And look, the point of the class is like to learn how to turn on a dime and like to fail in a safe space. So like, I'm not expecting people to do incredible work necessarily, but that is part of it, right? Similarly, in a real world example, you and I were talking off mic. It's a commercial where the brand name is really important, for instance, right? So like, if it was a Burger King commercial and we're talking about how much I love a Whopper or whatever, that's why I always go to BK. Could be a great improvised line, but I guarantee the client would be like, hey, it needs to be Burger King.
Mm-hmm.
And so then somebody has to replicate the same sort of effortless, off the cuff moment, but work in sometimes a kind of awkward brand name. For instance, with Coke commercials, you have to say Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm. Hey, can you hand me that Coca-Cola?
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's pretty hard, right? Like, hey, I'll take a Coke versus, hey, I'll take a Coca-Cola. I was working with my wife and we were working through things, and there's both, the improvised parts, and then there's also a bunch of liners, right. Like a bunch of like
scripted
lines that
stuff. Yeah,
scripted stuff. And so,
and the hard part about this, especially for actors, is like you're trying to improvise, and even you can plan out some, people, some of the best ones I did had done some research and written some ideas down for things they're going to say.
Talking points.
But you have to make it short, because and that's hard, because sometimes people will just talk for hours and hours, and we need, like, ultimately at the end of the day, I need like great 4 or 5 word sound bites.
Yeah. And so having done a bunch of like testimonial pieces in the past, like especially during the pandemic, there was a lot of like, it was very trendy to see stuff that was self-shot, like on a cell phone, whether it literally was self-shot or like we rented an Airbnb and everybody just pretended they lived there or whatever. And I would do that exact format where I'd like have them improvise about the product in some way. And then I'd be like, hey, these are the 6 beats I need you to hit. Give me 3 flavors of each of them. And it was always, in terms of the edit, 50-50 on whether or not you used, if it was just like all the script basically as written versus like, a few improvised lines of, but again, I think to your point, they always needed to be, they were punctuation marks. They'd be like, wow.
Like little button or
like,
something.
wow, that's so easy. The little buttons here and there, or act outs, things that kind of gave the spot room to breathe, because the scripted pieces were almost always like, oh my God, this app makes my life so easy. Wow, you just click here and it's on your door, or whatever dumb thing we were selling at the time.
I mean, I think we had some kind of longer bits too that are really kind of like, well, I wouldn't even consider myself the type of person that would be into this, but all of a sudden I am, like little kind of longer little beats like that.
Sure.
But yes,
sure. I had no idea I would love this thing, but thanks to this product, I do.
Yeah.
So the thing we would do in edit, and the thing I was thinking about for you, is that it would always be call and response. So you wanted 2 great versions of a longer line that had 2 clauses, so that one person would say, I didn't even know that I'd be into this thing, and then you cut to a new person to complete the thought,
like
to
a
be
setup
like,
and payoff kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of even like, there are a couple people that had really good stories, and I was like, oh, can you give me the first half of that story in 5 words and the second half of that story in 5 words? Someone was describing something, and he'd be like, and then this weird thing happened that confused me. And it's a super confusing thing, but kind of interesting. And then later on, he comes back with the explanation, and it turned out that this was why it was so weird,
Right. And then you would cut to just a person going like, mind blown, or something like that, to kind of tag the idea. Right.
And I even had, like, again, because I had all actors, they could kind of do things on demand. So I had almost everyone just like give me like a big laugh, you know?
Sure.
And some of them are just like so genuine.
It's like, oh, when you hire professional actors to act, they seem real.
Act, yeah. But so some of them, because we hired all these comedy people, one of them, you know, quite a few of them were like UCB, Herald teams, all that stuff, Groundlings. And some of them were just like on, you know, I mean, they're on camera, they're lit, everyone's hearing them. You know, of course they're going to be on. Some of them, they came with some ideas and they're like going boom, 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 boom. Like, and they're like kind of not really themselves. They're playing characters themselves. But so one thing I did, which I think worked well.
You're describing this is a problem for you. Like you need them to be more quote unquote authentic, more grounded.
I think sometimes, and again, when you edit them into a montage, maybe this isn't as noticeable. But to me, because I, you know, I've seen a lot of auditions and put a lot of auditions on tape, like one of my biggest notes to Kara, my wife, when we put an audition on tape is like it just felt like you memorized these words and said them, you know, and you said them really well and you hit them and you hit all the things, but like, can you just kind of pull it back in a way where I believe that you are thinking this thing and coming up with what you're saying right now?
Think the thoughts.
Yeah.
Think the thoughts.
Exactly. Without making it slower, which is always the hard part.
Sure.
But so I just was like looking for a way to disarm people. And so I did the most obvious thing a person can do, but it kind of was, it took a lot of time. I had 15 actors. I looked every single one of them up on the internet and I tried to find the oldest thing I could find about them. Like, you know, the high school they went to.
The deepest cut is what you're saying.
The deepest cut. Like
this is not at all obvious, by the way, Oren. I never would have thought to do this.
Oh, yeah. Because it was like there was this one woman. I couldn't find anything about her. I found her on IMDb. I knew all her credits, all that stuff. But that's not interesting, right? But I had seen that she had a Twitter that she hadn't touched in like 8 years. And that Twitter had a link with no description of why that link was there to another Twitter account. And on that Twitter account, the last thing that was posted was like 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And it said, sometimes I like to lurk in the fragrance subreddit, on Reddit. And I'm not sure why. And so just in the interview while I was talking to her, I got, you know, like we talked about the product, what made her feel, why she liked it. And then I was like, so her name's Brandy. I was like, Brandy, you're known for lurking in the Reddit, you know, in the fragrance, the fragrance subreddits. Like clearly you have an eye for detail. Like tell us how this character's eye for detail. Like tell us about how this product, tell us about the details of this product and like what you care about. So like my setup had almost nothing to do with my question,
but it disarmed her.
But every single person, even like the people that have like a big online presence, like that actor I was telling you about, he had, I guess like at the beginning of COVID, he started doing like eggnog reviews for his family. And I found like it wasn't on his TikTok, it wasn't on his Instagram. It was like on some website, he had like some link to like some eggnog reviews he did. So it was online, like he'd put it out there years ago.
Did it ever weird them out?
Well, I was really worried actually, and I asked my wife, Kara, because she's an actor, I was like, would you be weird if you went to a set and the director just knew all these weird things about you? There was one actor, I won't say who, but she has a very like raunchy like YouTube presence, like sex toy reviews, all these things, and I'm like, sure, I'm not bringing that. I never want to make someone feel uncomfortable about it.
A YouTube presence is very different than like an old blog from their live journal or something like that.
But I found like where people went to high school, like sometimes I'd see like a picture from graduation and I'll be like, you wore a purple hat. You were the only one wearing a purple hat at your high school graduation. You know, clearly you like to stand out. Tell me how you're unique when you use this product, you know? So, and it worked. It just gave me these, by worked. I don't know if it made things better, but it definitely made the actor, and we're rolling, you know, we're doing like 20-minute takes.
Sure.
There was a moment where like the entire facade went and the actor's like, what? And, you know, I'm obviously just copying like Hot Ones and like all these other interview shows.
Yeah. Like the Sean Evans deep cut.
Yeah.
But his intention, I think, is always to like,
ask like a real genuine question.
Yes. But also to help them drop their guard, right? Like they're thinking about hot sauce and how their tongue is on fire or whatever. And then he's like, oh, in high school, you did X, Y, and Z. how does that inform your process now?
I do think it's also like on that show, it's like a mind fuck
back in
a little bit where you're just, your brain is barely working. And then someone says this thing from your
someone
past,
reminds you of what you did in high school. Yeah.
And you're like, what? So anyway, I found that it worked. I do think like commercial actors, because commercial actors barely interact with a director until they're on set shooting. For them to be like, wait, how did you know this about me? And for me to be like, oh, I looked you up online. Like that was the most shocking part to them. Not necessarily that I found the
because they feel a little anonymous, basically.
Yeah, because you're the person that has, herpes in this herpes medication commercial. Sure. And all of a sudden someone's asking you a real personal question. It's not personal. I would like this one. Yeah. One guy went
high school graduation felt a little personal. I feel like I would be like, huh.
And kind of based on how they answered the previous questions, they're like, hey, what makes you happy? Like the more kind of generic questions that everyone was getting, the more I could see how much I could like dig in.
Sure.
Sometimes we feel like we have like a playful debate, and sometimes people are like, you're the director and I'm just doing what you're telling me, and this is weird. And I never want that to be the case. Anyhow.
Yeah. So the other big thing when directing things like this, and I think the more experienced actors tend to not have to deal with this, but maybe they still fall into this pitfall. There is that desire to want to do things right, right? To say the right thing, from the actor. And so,
especially the newer, we had a few actors that were not as experienced, and they definitely seem more nervous. Like, wait, did you get what you want? Did I say it the right way?
Yeah. And so as an example, I used to tell people no hyperbole. Like if you say this is the best you ever ate or the best you ever tried, we don't believe you. Like,
right.
Fully, you know what I mean? Like, so when I ask like, oh, the best slice of pizza you ever tried, you got to really explain to me why it's the best. You know what I mean? And it probably has an emotional connection or X, Y, or Z. But so like in your instance, if it's easy for if the prompt was like, hey, so tell me about your favorite aspect of this product. And they say, this product is the best ever. Maybe the brand wants that once or twice, but your bullshit meter goes off immediately.
Oh yeah. And you can only have one person say it like at the end, you
maybe.
Can't. Yeah. At most.
Maybe. And it kind of sets this sort of momentum going of like, they're only in everything is crazy great, and there's not, like it always rings false. So did you deal with that at all? Were people like trying to?
There were a couple people that kept inserting the product name into their answer, and I appreciate it. But I was thinking like, because this is a montage edit, I'm like, we need one person to mention the product name, and then like a few other people talk about the product without mentioning the name. If everyone's mentioning the name, every time we cut to them, it sounds bad, repeating the same word over and over, unless that's part of the bit, is like not good. So yeah, I did a little bit of that. The other thing I do with interviews, because the agency had written all these sample questions that were on the surface, I think like totally good, valid questions. Like things like, how do you relate to this product? And like, how does this product make you feel? But when I asked myself those questions, it was really hard for me to come up with an answer, like unless I like really sat down and thought about it for 10 minutes. So I think that's like my other kind of piece of advice is when you have interview questions and you have a limited time to interview people and you're trying to get like good tidbits out of them, improvise stuff, like just think about the question yourself and make sure it's an easy question to answer, because it's very easy to write complex, like to write interview questions that seem simple, but really are so open-ended that they're giving your interviewee nothing to go off of.
Yeah. Well, and that's in a lot of ways the director's whole job, right? Because you've got a creative team who's internalized a brief and is thinking so hard about this and writing things over and over again and all this stuff, but it's all kind of in this theoretical, and we're the glue between that theoretical creative world and the actual execution, right? So we're going to push up against production and make things as good as we can for whatever capacity we can. It makes me think of, there was this moment. I do a lot of cat food commercials. We've talked about this before, less so now, but in the past. And there was one creative team.
Fat cats out there.
That they were like, listen, play the sound of a lion around these cats and we'll get great reactions.
Wait, did they research this or they just thought this?
They just thought
Come
that,
on,
like,
dude.
we were going to tap into their...
Why not a barking dog?
The primal... They were trying. Yeah, like that sort of stuff. Like, let's tap into their primal instincts. Somebody must have said that once and then it just stuck with this team. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And didn't ever do it. And then at one point, things weren't going super smoothly. It's kind of a longer shoot. And one of them got up with their phone. In this case, I was shooting a kitten. And I'm the only one who's ever been like near these kittens, basically. Like, I'm like really close to them. And like, as soon as you get close, you realize like, oh, this thing can't even see. Can't hear, can't see. You just plop them and they just sort of like look around. It's like a newborn. You know what I mean? And he gets up with his phone and he's got like a lion on YouTube. And he plays it right next to the kitten's head and nothing happened.
Yeah, I mean, they have no context.
Obviously. No context. Again, they can't hear anything. And then he just sat back down and everybody kind of looked at themselves and I didn't say anything. We just kept shooting. Right. But it's the example that I think of when you go from the laboratory to the field, right? These really cool ideas. Like there's something really cool and romantic and fun about that idea. Like, wouldn't it be great if you could get this response from them? And then, when you're in the trenches, you realize like, oh no, they don't care about that thing that you thought was a really good idea. And so these questions that are highfalutin or whatever sometimes fall flat, and you're the person who's there to be like, what's your favorite X? Right.
Yeah. It is really funny.
Yeah.
It is also like your job as the director. Like a lot of times I would go back to the Video Village client and agency and be like, oh, I think it's going really well. Right. And they're like, they need to be talking more about their feelings. Just ask them how this product makes them feel. And I'm like,
because the client has been meditating on that for months. Do you know what I mean? They're trying to evoke certain states out of people. Like they've got complex briefs and psychographics and all that stuff. So they are thinking our job is to make the viewer feel this way about our product.
Right. But just asking a person that's on the spot, like how something makes them feel it doesn't elicit a response. So that's
full?
Why. Yeah. So my job is
thirstier
becomes like translating that. And they're like,
yeah.
Or like we had a teleprompter with all the scripted stuff. They're like, can you just have them do the scripted stuff in their own words?
Oh, sure.
Which it's like, you're looking at a camera that says, hey, how's it going? My name is Matt, or, hey, I'm Matt Enlow and I'm here to present a tour of Italy.
And I'm supposed to say like, hey, what's up? I'm Matt here to,
and you're literally looking at a similar thing, but you're trying to not say what is written on the screen right in front of you where you're trying to look, and it's all kind of looking right into the lens. I was like, guys, it's just not like we either got to put in the teleprompter, like let's write different things or, I don't know. You're just kind of, some of the things they were asking for, I just felt like were really, really hard.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I know you got to go. Should we, we'd love to hear from you guys about if you've done kind of like these semi-scripted, half improvised things, how you talk to actors, especially when the script is a little open-ended. Email us at justshootitpod@gmail.com. Do you have I know you have a meeting right now. Can you do
I pushed it 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I pushed
you got a couple minutes for unpaid endorsements?
Let's do it.
Unpaid endorsements.
I went to NoBudge in LA.
Oh yeah. I have no idea what that is.
Week. So NoBudge is a screening series in New York, primarily of like short films. That was really fun. I saw on Instagram, they were coming out in LA. They had 2 nights. I went to one. Super fun. It was a screening in Glendale at Look Theater. Have you ever been to Look Theater?
Of course, I go there all the time.
So NoBudge. But so in Glendale, this is the super specific thing you're going to roll your eyes at. But there is a
vegan sandwich shop.
A vegan sandwich shop. Do you know it?
Well, I think you sent me the link to it.
Oh, it's a vegan sandwich place called Zangialov Hots. ZHENGYALOV space HATZ. And they only sell one sandwich.
No way.
And it's like a flatbread sandwich. It's like a big flatbread with like a bunch of herbs in it, like garlic and herbs, and that's it. And they roll it up, and it is delicious and like warm and like a little filling, but not too filling, and refreshing and like savory.
Wait, are you serious? They only sell one thing?
They sell one thing, and they sell one sandwich, and then a thing that's called a yogurt drink that we didn't try. Mm-hmm. That feels like kind of like a thick yogurt.
Yeah, like a labneh or kind of.
Yeah, probably. And then they do that with cucumber as well.
Oh, nice. Wow, that's great. I'll definitely check it out. I don't know that my kids would eat this. Well, I've got 3. I'm going to do them real quick. One, did you know, this is just a tip. I don't know if everyone knows this or not, but it took me years to realize this. If somebody shares a Dropbox folder with you, you know, you accept it, you add to your own Dropbox. It's now like the root directory of your Dropbox. It's kind of annoying because like your whole organization is broken. But did you know you can just pull that folder into a different Dropbox folder and then just treat it as like a shared folder, and then it'll be in the right place on your computer. So
that's cool. No, I don't think I did know that.
I've been doing it because like a treatment, you know, a lot of people pull images and are like, oh,
my root Dropbox folder is a freaking mess. So
yeah, mine's pretty organized. I have a projects folder. It's projects, then a production company, then the name of the project, and then folders underneath there. Like I usually have a treatment folder. So when a treatment designer or image puller or something is like sharing images with me, they'll send me a Dropbox link sometimes, and they'll add me so I can have it on my computer instead of having to go through the web interface, but it'll be at the root of my Dropbox. So now I can just drag it into my project folder, and it'll be there, and everything's organized, and it gets auto updated. If I put files in there, my treatment image person sees them. If they put files in there, I see them.
That's nice.
It's awesome.
Nice. Yeah.
Second thing, I've not really used this, but our old past guest Grant, who created the show AllOren, and he has a show on Netflix right now called Outlast, and he's done a bunch of shows. He was pitching something today, and he asked me, he's like, is there a place I can type in a phrase or some words? He called it a sound up, which I guess is like an unscripted term.
Sure.
Or like a sound bite. And it will find me a video where somebody says this phrase.
Sure.
Yeah. I was like, I mean, that sounds like the Holy Grail. He's like, yeah, I'm editing.
No, that definitely exists. I have multiple saved TikToks about that.
Oh, well, what's your, because I was trying to
I couldn't name it off the top of my head. I'd have to go through my saved TikToks, but like certainly there's a few places that do that, like for GIFs and videos and stuff for sure.
Right. So he was cutting like a teaser together, and he wanted like bits where someone says like, I miss you, or someone says like, you'll never work in this town again, or whatever. But he didn't want it really from movies and TV shows. He wanted it like from real people, like more reality looking stuff.
Gotcha.
And I found this website. It's called, and I was like, well, look, YouTube auto transcribes every video that is uploaded. So the text does exist in a database.
And is searchable, right?
But it's not searchable right now. But I found this website. It's called Filmot, FILMOT.com. And it has like a few million YouTube videos in it. And it keeps adding more and more. And it just has the transcription of all these videos. And you can search for any word or phrase or anything you want. And it'll show you all the videos that have the transcription or that are in their database. So if you're trying to edit together like a Rip-O-Matic or something, you want a certain phrase, it's pretty useful. And then my last recommendation, I'm sure I've kind of talked about this before, but sometimes like when you can't figure out how to shoot something, like that's a little complicated. Like I was telling you, I needed like an animal to do a very specific thing that it would never really do at a very specific time. And I know it should probably be VFX. Like I'll just go to VFX companies' websites and just watch their breakdowns and just start like, oh, that wasn't, and I'll see commercials or TV shows. I'm like, what? That wasn't like a real street? That was just a green screen? And you just kind of start getting ideas of how to shoot stuff. So today I was talking to Tony Ascenda, who directs all those Buffalo Wild Wings commercials with this photorealistic buffalo that walks around. And he told me it's done by this company called UntoldStudios.tv. And I was looking at their reels and I was like, damn, there's like people shoot some VFX stuff in very cool ways that I never even knew it was VFX. I was like, wow, they shot this biker in the rain in New York City. And it's like, nope, she's in a living room with a green screen behind her. So anyway, UntoldStudios.tv/VFX is like the one I was watching today, and I really got excited by it. So check it out.
Awesome, man. Well, if you've got any other deep cut VFX or great sandwich spots, drop us a line at justshootitpod across all social media. You can email us as well at justshootitpod@gmail.com, and you can follow me at Mr. Matt Enlow.
And you can just send me messages, and I share them with the whole team. Usually when they're about how great something I said is, or how horrible something I said is. I get about equal parts of both. Oh, and one last shout out to Dustin, our second AD.
Shout out Dustin,
who told me that he listens to our podcast. So if he really does, then Dustin, send me a message, email me something. But who knows? A lot of people tell us they listen, and then they can't.
I believe Dustin.
They can't name one thing about us. Anyhow, thanks everyone. Catch you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.